go see the movie Melania, and we saw it twice actually, and it was a lot of fun. Jen saw lots of comms in there, and she's sharper on some of this stuff, especially the dress stuff, than I am even. And of course, the whole movie is really about the 20 days up to the inauguration in 2025. And it's about her preparation, which, of course, she's the flag staff of America, and the flag, with meaning. Well, the dresses that they showed were all the ones that Jen had written about. And one of the ones I think was especially interesting from Jen's perspective, and I agree, even during the inauguration parties in the evening, there was a dress that Melania wore that had that swoosh of a black line that went across and then down a ribbon. And so they spent a bunch of time on that. Jen had written a meme even while the inauguration balls were still going and posted it. I think, Melania was still in her dress January 20th. And she had noted that she thought in her mind, because people see some of the stuff and they try to come up with interpretation.
There was a suit.
Yeah.
The dress, enjoy the show ribbon.
Yeah. And so Jen wrote, this enjoy the show meme. And but the dress that stuck out to me that will be in the Smithsonian Museum, second dress by that dressmaker, by the way, to be so unique and different in a special event that he gets to have his dress in the Smithsonian is this one with the black swirl on a white dress. Well, and by the way, Melania mentions that she likes black and white. And you think about that, it's just very clear, definitions and lines and things like that. And you have to remember, she was a supermodel. So her as a supermodel already, very detailed in her presentations. She does her own makeup and hair. We've heard, yeah. And she is very into presentation and form. How do you present? What are you saying with how you present, etc. Even some of the other things that are relatively maybe get glossed by with people, but she raised Barron during an election cycle. Barron was 10 when they started campaigning for the election. He was 12 when they entered the White House. And he had those growing up years, 16 when they left, all the dramas in between. Now he's in college. And so you think about what her roles were as First Lady, and then all the other things going on. The First Lady kind of manages the day-to-day operations in the White House, starting at the wing, because it's their residence, it's where they live. And then it builds out from there. And so she has lots of things that they supervise. She's raising Barron. Her parents were living there at the White House also, her mother and her father, and helping with the kids. Barron's grandmother right there close by all the time to help with things. And so, you think of the family and what's going on there within that family during all of these events. It personalizes it. Trump is such a showman and pulls all the attention that, it distracts from other things. But, the other thing, you think about Melania, she's raising her son. She's trying to keep her lower profile, give him a chance to grow up, young man. And, she talks about the things that she wanted to instill in him. And so that he has to be aware of decorum, how he presents all the time. because the cameras are on all the time. He has to maintain his integrity in what's going on. That, he has to, you know, present properly and, be straight. And, so you're raising a kid in this hyper intense environment. And then she's doing all the other stuff, which, of course, if she's trying to do something that is going to set a new standard for the first ladies. She takes her role in America very seriously. And so they never say that the dresses are a message, but the whole presentation is built around the dresses that she's going to wear for these events, the preparations for the ballrooms with the various people and other things. But it really is about the dresses. Why? Because the dresses are important messages. But Jen, one of the things that she had noted was that the dress with the swirl reminded her of Michael Jackson. I'm talking about the second dress, not the first one.
The second dress was Enjoy the Show. It looked like a movie tape.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So anyway, I'm getting corrected. She's giving me the down low. She had it all posted anyway. So the short version from me is, she mentioned that reminded her of Michael Jackson, and so, and what he wore during which
black, her navy blue suit.
No, I'm talking about the swirl.
That's Enjoy the Show, the movie ribbon.
Okay, the movie ribbon, yes, but okay, all right, she'll post whatever. Anyway, so it's a good thing. I sometimes get my scriptures tangled. Yeah, Elijah, Elisha, the one with the E. What was his name? Israel. Yeah, Israel. That's what I meant. Anyway, she's giving me the dress thing.
I'm off the hook.
The thing that stuck out to me was Jen had said in whatever she had that it reminded her of this Michael Jackson appearance in his Billie Jean thing with the black and white. And in the movie, Melania is asked about this in that same time frame, and she says her favorite artist is Michael Jackson. Her favorite song is the Billie Jean song. And then she says, well, but it could be Thriller, but it could be this, that. But it's kind of a fun little thing. And they're playing the Billie Jean song right in that era. So, it was something that in the middle of a broadcast. All right, there we go. So he's waiting for me too. So I can't be here too long because we have something really critical that's going on that we need to.
Yes, sir.
Well, Jen's noting the fact that, the opening of The Called, our movie, Jen opens it up with water and we show the screen with water and then the sound. It's this kind of a green screen and the sound of water running. How does the Melania movie open? You could put them side by side and go, what in the world? They look identical.
No way.
It's this green screen and the water sound. Well, and the coin from 2025, which we still have a few of, but not lots, is the Watch the Water coin, and it's Melania. So it was unique that they chose a theme to open, which has been our theme for all of this time, related to this Melania theme. So anyway, Jen was very excited about that, and I thought that was kind of fun. So, and there was a particular scene. I don't want to draw too much attention to it, but there was a particular scene with two of the protective detail that it was kind of funny. I was at Mar-a-Lago one time, And I thought, because I saw one of the guys walking across the parking lot to me, and then somebody coming from the opposite end, I thought, oh, shoot, Secret Service. I must have done something wrong. I must be parked in. Yeah. We saw you on the camera. Hey, would you have time to sign our books?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Listen, he doesn't have much time. He told me we got 30 minutes. So he just clicked out.
We're waiting. We'll see where we get to. And, but, the Patriots are getting more and more access and capability and like that. I guess one of the things that should be said, though, it's very clear within the Q communications that we're going to have a period where we won't have any of the internet access at all. The trigger for that comes after the Super Bowl. Now we're just in the aftermath of the Super Bowl. The interesting thing is at the same time you have the weird messaging that always comes with the Super Bowl halftimes that, by most of the people that we have looking at it, they go, well, it's just plain satanic. You have the same thing here with the Winter Olympics opening and closing ceremonies. Some very bizarre, I think the only way to describe it is satanic imagery that's projected during those opening and closing ceremonies. And so in this time period is when within the Q drops, it notes the Super Bowl will look like the Puppy Bowl with what's coming in the drops and the messaging. It doesn't give you a year, so it's just giving you it's a timing mark. But if this is the year and you have so many things going on, this is very likely that point where all this stuff starts just coming to a head. And the deal is in the way that these Satanists think, they have to tell you what they're going to do. And then if you do something, or if you just, ignore them or whatever, it's like the sin of commission versus the sin of omission.
Yeah.
And if you fail to act to stop or slow what they're doing, then that means you're okay with it. You're good with it. And anything bad that happens, the bad karma is on you because they told you what they were going to do. You didn't do anything to stop it. So, you were okay having it happen. And within the Q operation, where so many scriptures are dropped, by the way, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness in high places. Within the Q operations, there is a counter. It is about taking action. It's recognizing evil. If you have satanic messaging in these worldwide broadcasts, which, for example, the Super Bowl, as I mentioned to your folks last week, this was the first time ever, even though it's always had a worldwide audience, it's the first time ever that it was broadcast into every country in the world, directly fed in. And that was a first. And then that capability now is also going into with the Olympics. On the far side of all of this, if you have satanic messaging and everybody's just got to be good with it, well, if you're going to now expose things, you're opposing evil, opposing the enemy, then you're not good with it. Now, one of the themes, everybody here should be, slow down a second, put your ear closer to what I'm saying. One of the themes that is coming out in the Epstein stuff, it has been pointed out by numerous people that Jeffrey Epstein was referring to and involved in Baal worship. Remember Baal or Baal, Moloch in the Bible, where they were sacrificing children on the mountaintops around Jerusalem. Okay, that was Baal worship, Moloch worship. That was you know, Sunday school, church, preacher in the pulpit, nice in the way that it portrays that. It says that they're directed not to make their children pass through the fire or through the flame. That's a very nice way of saying don't offer your children to idols as a living sacrifice, roasting them, which is what did on the hilltops around Jerusalem. That's why you had this standoff between Elijah and the prophets of Baal.
Yes.
Whose offering will God receive? The stronger God can take the offering by creating his own flame, even to prove that it was the true God in heaven. They had the worshipers of Baal, when they couldn't get their fire lit, throw water on the altar before Elijah prayed. And then God consumed the altar, the sacrifice. And then in that instant, the worshipers of Baal and all the children and people of Israel that were present on this mountaintop for this great, spectacle, when God sent the lightning bolt down and consumed the whole thing, they realized that they had been worshiping the wrong God. And it was so stark that people turned on the priests of Baal and killed them, every one. And think of what was in the minds of the people that were so enraged that they chased them down and killed them right there, because these were the ones that were haughty. They were very, the powerful ones. They had the right look of the eye. They're so, controlling the people. So much so with their illusions, their magic, their, incantations and promises, that they convinced people to bring their children and sacrifice them to Baal.
Yep.
With all the screaming, the yelling, the chanting over the screams of a child being burnt alive.
Yes.
And then we look at the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and there's references to Baal. Now, one of the relatives of Jeffrey Epstein, and I've asked a number of the hosts to go ahead and interview her, has come out and said that her family is a Baal worshiping family, and that Jeffrey Epstein was a Baal worshiper raised in that environment as a family, and that she has stepped away, broken away from it. When you look at everything Epstein within that context, that kind of a mindset, and he also says in those the papers that have been released thus far, 3 million pages, there's another 3 million to come. But he says in there that he is a creation in collusion and working with the Rothschild family.
Wow.
One of the things about the Rothschild family is that they also are Baal worshipers, Moloch worshipers. And one of the interesting stories, which I believe is true, but you wouldn't have any way to know it, it's been spread around. It could be internet BS. True, based on writings that are out there, that there is a practice where once every 20 years on a special date, they're visited by Satan himself, Lucifer, the devil, that at their meals, they leave one chair open for him all the time, but once every 20 years, he literally, does some incarnation of some sort and is physically present. Of course, it's internet lore or whatever, but there's a reason why I think it's true based on one of my contacts that I've written about a bit vaguely, but out there at an earlier point. And again, if the Rothschild family was part of the promotion, they were the big money behind Epstein and all his big money and the stuff he was doing. And if what this relative said is true, and she goes into a lot of detail, and she'll be doing more interviews over the next days and weeks, I'm sure, then it changes everything about the Epstein story and what's coming in the next 3 million pages of data drops related to Epstein. And part of the thing, and a number of people are now going, oh my gosh, remember WikiLeaks?
Yeah.
What was the most telling and disconcerting aspect of WikiLeaks? Remember the context. Seth Rich was working at the Democratic National Committee's headquarters. He was a promoter. He liked someone other than Hillary Clinton to be the one that was the candidate, and was aware of the fact that there was in the way that the primary was run. And so his guy didn't get it, and Hillary got it, and it was through some mischief and fraud. So the belief is, and it's pretty solid, I think, at this point in time, Seth Rich directly downloaded all of the communications within the DNC and then sent it over through a relative to get to Julian Assange, who then posted it. And it was this huge WikiLeaks thing, which was broadly known as Pizzagate. And here you have communications, Hillary Clinton, her campaign manager, other people, and they're talking about pizza parties, hot dog parties, and things that are related to pedophilia from within the FBI's own stuff. Amongst those things, one of the most disconcerting, Hillary Clinton says to her campaign manager when it's clear that she's in trouble in the campaign and is headed for losing, that she may have to sacrifice a chicken to Moloch. Well, in this case, a chicken is a young boy.
No.
And that's code for a young boy. And she may have to go out and sacrifice a chicken to Moloch, which, as I've said for decades now, Hillary Clinton is a practicing witch. She's a member of the Wing Coven out in California, and she's an honorary member of the Wing Coven out in New York. Wing as in, witches. And she would occasionally, during President Clinton's terms, ditch her Secret Service detail and literally get cross-country to where she could attend some of these coven meetings without any Secret Service present. We talked about that back during Whitewater, which people, thought was pretty wild. It was pretty out there to mention it even, but I felt that people needed to at least be aware of what's going on. And remember, Bill and Hillary, where did they go on their honeymoon? Went to Haiti.
Yeah.
Haiti.
Crazy.
You go to Haiti on your honeymoon? And Bill, in his book, comments about how intrigued he was with the way the voodoo witch doctors could control like zombies. And, that intrigued him. Well, because he wants to, do the same thing with the voters. So there's an angle there of this satanic side that's much more prevalent than people want to even think. And I'll just add this one last thing related to Hillary. She wanted to speak at a copy of the Arch of Baal.
Yes.
Remember that perfect copy of the Archway of Baal that came from the city of Baal in Syria, which ISIS blew up conveniently, by the way. And what the story is there was 200 extraterrestrials, essentially, but they were giants, gods, whatever, that fell to earth at Mount Hermon, which Christ, by the way, went to. Go find it, read the story.
Yes.
And at the base of Mount Hermon was a city that these giants built. And the city was the city of Baal. And it had archways that you would pass through to get into the city. And that city was known as a city where child sacrifice was practiced at the edge of Israel. Where did this whole child sacrifice thing come from? Moloch and everything else. It came from that city that was dedicated to child sacrifice, where the 200 were. And the 200 that fell to earth landed at the top of Mount Hermon, the highest World Heritage Site on planet Earth, according to the UN's thing. They've created all these World Heritage Sites, places that must be preserved for out into eternity because they're important to humanity. Well, the highest location of a World Heritage Site on the planet is at the top of Mount Hermon.
Wow.
And that's dedicated to what? Those that fell to earth. And then they came down off the mountain and they built a city. It's the city of Baal, dedicated to Baal and Moloch, where child sacrifice is practiced. At some point in history, that city was destroyed, but one archway was left as a reminder of what this is. And archways in the occult are considered a gateway, a portal between worlds. And so, and of course, those that occupied that city fell to earth. Where'd they come from? They were humanoid, not human, not descendants of Adam.
Hmm.
And so they were surreal, they were godlike. And if you entered the city of Baal, you brought a sacrifice, looking for favor, looking for help, looking for a good harvest. And if these were men of renown, the children of these giants were men of renown. Remember, in the legend, it says that they were 200 males that preferred the company of each other, but they realized they would die without a progeny. They had fallen to earth and they had a lifespan too. So they chose for themselves of whomever they wished of the women.
Yeah.
And took them for wives,
Yeah.
and then had children by them. And the
Yeah.
children by them were hybrids and were men of renown and stature. They were giants. And so they weren't purely human. They considered themselves more than human. That's why they wanted human sacrifices. And by the way, in the way sacrifice was practiced, any of the remains from the sacrifice were then eaten by the priests, even in the Old Testament, when the lamb was and meat were offered, then the priests ate that. That was, or it was burned.
Yeah.
And taken to ash. So they practiced human sacrifice and then ate the babies. Now you go back to WikiLeaks. What was said in there? They have this this witch, this Satan worshiper, who's actually a male, uh, Marina, what's her name?
Abramovich.
No, not Abramovich.
Yeah.
And she does art with human feces, waste, blood, saliva, semen, everything. And so it's supposed to be art. And they would have parties where they had supposedly simulated cakes shaped like humans, and people would eat the cake or dishes, food, etc. And they'd even have, hopefully live models pretending to be food at these tables. And the allegation was that it wasn't just, for art, that some human sacrifice was actually occurring. And so this is all in the WikiLeaks drops. And by the way, just one other thing, let me just add this little note. In the DNC's computers of all imagery, pictures, photographs, a significant portion of everything in there is pictures from Antarctica, where the breakaway is located. And Maria Abramovich, do you know what her title is, her official title within the UN? She's the ambassador to Antarctica for, I believe it is art. Okay.
For who?
Think about that. What in the world is going on?
It's awful.
And they're laughing at the rest of us while they're pretending to commit human sacrifice, promoted what. And this is okay. And then Hillary, she wanted to speak in this archway of Baal about 3 weeks before the election in 2016. She wanted to stand in the archway, which is symbolically a portal, as a witch, a gateway to the demon and spirit world, and have this archway put in New York, in the park, Central Park in New York, and speak from there, gating in the demons. And it was stopped. I and many, many others threw a huge stink. How could you have this archway from a city dedicated to child sacrifice on U.S. soil? It was over at the Louvre in Paris at the time. How could you possibly allow that in? And then on what basis would any politician want to be seen in conjunction with that kind of imagery? It's over the top. And so it got canceled. But had we not made such a stink, the witch would have stood in the portal, gating in demons.
Wow.
To America before the 2016 election. What is this broader message I'm saying? We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness in high places. The fight is on. The Epstein stuff. Now you have a relative out telling you these are Baal worshipers. He grew up in a family of Baal worshipers. He tells you that his role in the world is what it is because of help working with the Rothschild family. And then let me take it to another level. One of the things that I've mentioned to your audience over and over many times, and to other audiences also, I don't try to make a big deal of it, but I put it out there for consideration because I think we have a more mature audience here in or spiritual things.
Yeah.
I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that maybe the people listening here haven't do it for some stuff that's just greater than most of the other audiences that I get to speak to. So the deal is this. who made the motion, plea, move, whatever, that allowed for, I'm sorry, just remember, that allowed for the state of Israel to come into existence. That was the Balfour Declaration in 1917. And the signer on the Balfour Declaration was Lord Rothschild. Wait a minute. A Jew, allegedly, family of Jews, the Money family. And they worked a deal with the British government to allow that they could purchase land in the Palestine district controlled by England. And at some point, when they'd purchased enough land, they would be able to declare and take on statehood as a nation. And so that's the Balfour Declaration. But wait a minute. To give a place for Jews, the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Cain, to go and develop their own homeland. And so is the nation of Israel. See, I mentioned this over and over, and I asked the question, is Israel, is the nation that's there right now, is that truly of God? We're certainly sold that. Are there Christians there? Absolutely. Are there Jews that are true worshipers of God in heaven there? Absolutely. Well-meaning, but how many times, think of somebody invited by Bill Clinton or Randy Andy from the Third in Line to the British Crown, or Ghislaine Maxwell, who is so prim and proper and presents so beautifully. Why don't you come join us at the island? We'd love to have you come out there. And, we're going to have a bunch of other really neat people there. You're going to get the chance to meet them. We'll have some great food. And people innocently, they didn't know any better. Yeah, I'm sure, I'd love to. They get there, they see what's going on. They're like, oh my gosh. But they get roped in. They get sucked in. They get honeypotted. They get blackmailed. Because that's what the island was all about. And a dozen other locations in that area run by other families where they were trying to suck people in and set them up. Some of them may have had proclivities a certain direction, but many of them had no clue what they were getting sucked into. How many people in this audience, Jerry, have maybe they became believers at a church or a location where at some point they realized that they came to a point of commitment, understanding. They may have even grown up in a church of a certain thing and then realized, you know what, this is off base. It's cultish. Maybe I like the people and like that, but there's something wrong. And the Holy Spirit speaks to them and moves them away and says, no, this isn't the place for you. They're off base. Even if you found the Lord in that location, even if you started your Christian walk in that location, the Holy Spirit at a certain point made it clear to you that you had to make a different choice in order to grow the rest of the way, in order to continue. And I think some of that's, in fact, in play in Israel right now. Let me add one other thing. When Abraham sojourned, and then Isaac and Jacob after him, walking the land that God said, I will give you everywhere that you place the sole of your foot. So when we follow Abraham's journey and the altars that he built, and then those by Isaac and Jacob, that encompasses the land that was promised to Abraham's children forever, and to Isaac and to Jacob forever, children and grandchildren, children of the promise. We call Abraham the father of the faithful. because he believed that God could give him an offspring into advanced age. And yet he believed, and a miracle happened, and she does have a child, and then they have offspring, and they become a mighty nation.
Yes.
So with that in mind, after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, these many, many, many years, and then Joseph, is the son of Jacob, is sold into slavery. One of his 12 sons is sold into slavery in Egypt by his brothers. And then the rest of the family comes there. It's a great story, and he's able to save his whole family. But he goes through all sorts of horrible travail to end up in that place. And the people fall into slavery for hundreds of years. It started out good, and it went off track. And the later emperors, pharaohs, forgot what Joseph had done to save the nation. It was obscured over time, painted over. And so within that whole long story, and then Moses rises up in God's direction. He's saved through water, by the way, and just like we are through baptism. And he, at God's direction, leads the people out of Israel, right to the edge of the river. And then they're called. He himself doesn't get to cross, but with Jacob with Joshua leading, they cross the river and go into the promised land. And what was the problem in the promised land? Why did they have to go in as a mighty army? Because another army in the intervening several hundred years had grown up there. When Abraham sojourned in the land, there was no army opposing him. There was other property owners, kings that had, people and slaves and everything else. And he went through the land, sojourned in the land, and walked the whole land. There's no record of him ever encountering a giant. But approximately 500 years later, when Joshua leads them into the land, what was it the spies said? And the reason why the people wouldn't go into the land and end up walking in the desert for 40 years, they were afraid because 10 of the spies that went in the land came back with a bad report and says, oh, it's a land of milk and honey. It's awesome. It's incredible. It's everything, except for one problem.
Giants.
There's giants in the land, and we were but grasshoppers in their sight.
Yeah.
We were just grasshoppers, man. They squished a step on us. And they weren't kidding. Og, one of the giants that was slain in that time period, was 30 foot tall. We talk about, David and Goliath. Well, Goliath was probably about 12 feet tall. Og was 30 feet tall. And they had these massive cities with huge stone walls and everything else. By the way, when the people marched around Jericho, looking at the city of Jericho today, it doesn't look like the walls fell down like they fell over and crumbled and everything else. When you look at what's there, it appears that the walls were pushed straight down in the ground. Okay? When it says the walls fell down, it was like a curtain dropping.
Yes.
And then the people went in and went to war and fought those giants, and they went through the whole land. And the giants, those occupying, receded before them as they were able to conquer the land and take control of it. So that's kind of this thing. But think about it. What did the devil do? You don't the to his descendants, the children of Jacob's name changing to Israel. And so the children of Israel, the descendants of Israel, who became a mighty nation in Egypt, 1 to 5 million people, depending on whose account, that you go to. When they went into the land 500 years later, there's somewhere between 1 million and 5 million people all descendants of Ham. And uh, yet they couldn't take the possession that God promised them because the devil had sent in his own occupying army. The giants were an army of hybrids who also had regular humans that were there. Why do you think they called it Canaan land? Hybrids, Cain. Cain was a hybrid himself. So with that in mind, we now look at Israel and we go, is what is occupying that space, this reborn nation of Israel, is there some kind of piracy, hijacking of the moment that's taking place? It does not mean that's not the land that God promised Abraham, that there's not a covenant with God's people in that land, that there's not people living under the covenant, including Christians today, there as an occupying army because God told them to go there. I think that's absolutely true, and they're practicing certain things, speaking the language, etc. But within the governance of Israel today, I think it's a valid question. Are the people, is the mechanism, is the way that's being governed right now, it's presented to Christians and to the church with all of these special envoy trips and things like that to Israel, that this is, God's specially protected nation, that we as Americans have to protect it and make every effort and protect and supply and military and everything else. And we do. And I don't totally invalidate that, but there may be some problems at the same time. And I think we have to at least be aware that the devil is fighting for that location too.